Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Comic Book Radio, episode 43. I'm your host, Peter Cimetti. Today, this is a daytime show. My guest is MARSH Makes Comics. And before we get started, this is a bit of a pre-show. I'm going to be doing this kind of a thing, getting started about 15 minutes or so before the actual show starts and the guest comes on board. This way we can spend as much time with them as possible. I can get a couple things out of the way. I could tell you guys about any updates I need to. And I can also talk to you guys in the chat. Sound good? I think it sounds good. This way we can give the guests our undivided attention, the full hour or so. So before we do get started, I want to talk to you guys. We got Jaded1 in the chat. What's up, Jaded1? Dr. Mask is here as well. We got Abo Grizzly. What's up? Says, wow, I made it to one of these. There you go. Manny says, I can't stay long, so I'll have to watch this later. It'll be a good one, too. It'll be a really good one. I got to catch up with Marsh. Such an interesting dude. He's always trying different things. Jaded1 asks, how you doing today, Pete? I'm doing good. I got a lot of stuff going on, man. And I know all you guys always have a lot of stuff going on, too. But goodness gracious, it seems like you're doing one thing. Your mind is like, shouldn't you do that other thing? And then you're like, no, I got to do this one thing. I got to get this one thing done. And then when you do something else, you're like, shouldn't you do that other thing? What about that other one? It's one of those days that you just got to commit to what you're doing. All right. So right now, like I said, we got a little bit of a pre-show happening here. I want to talk to you guys about something I just added to the King Cryptid campaign. Let's see if we could show that. Alright, there it is. Okay, so the King Cryptid campaign, this is for issues 5 to 9. They're on Alterna and Indiegogo. We got 356 total backers on board, 16,724 raised, and that is of today. As far as I know, no one else has backed yet. This was updated about 15 to 20 minutes ago. Now, the thing I want to share with you today, hey, Dr. Mask, I'm glad that you got your latest Alterna pack. Awesome. Hey, Lizello, how you doing? All right, so the thing I want to talk to you guys today, and I don't know, I think King Cryptid might be in the way. I might have to take him out here for a second. You see him on screen. He's looking rather ferocious. I'm going to have to ask you, my friend, to chill out for 1 second. All right, so we got a 5-minute sketch card up here. I completely forgot, along with, there's a couple other perks from the last campaign too that I had wanted to list on this campaign. So many King Cryptid things, but this one in particular, totally forgot about this, that this was an option last year. Now last year this was one of those either new moon or full moon special perks. This year instead I'm going to add it just for a limited time. So this 5-minute sketch card is just a portrait card, a quick card. Even though most people are like, you did that in 5 minutes? It took me like a half hour if I did that. Now, this is on here for $25, free shipping. It's black, white, maybe, if I got a couple seconds, I'll hit it with a Copic marker. I'll put some white on there, with the gel pen or something like that. But it takes pretty quick to get these done, but I try to cram as much as I can. And the thing is, I'm not really strict about the 5 minutes. I'll go maybe extra 30 seconds to a minute if I feel like, no, that has to be done right. It has to look right. I don't just stop right at the 5 minutes, whether or not it looks good or not to me. So this is a 5-minute sketch card, $25, free shipping. I have it available as a featured perk here, as a main perk. And free shipping worldwide. Great way to get some original art from me. I also have it available as an add-on. So you can choose a character from the drop-down. It's got to be a King Cryptid character, though. All right, so you have King Cryptid to choose from. You got Victor Lugo, Behemoth, Granite Beast, Broog, White Mountain Yeti, Dragon Vanderkin, Wendy the Werewolf, Puckwudgie, or an other King Cryptid character. So if there's another character you want from the King Cryptid series that isn't mentioned in the drop down, choose that one, and then I'll get in touch with you when it's time to get them drawn. But like I said, this is a main perk. Right now it's featured. It's going to be up just till August 8th when the campaign closes and goes into demand. And it is going to go in demand. It's not going to go into an extra 30 days. It's not going to close permanently. It's going to go in demand. But this is going to come down at that point in time. Now, it might sell out before then, because there's 25 as a main perk and 25 as an add-on. So 50 in total. But they'll be up until August 8th. So a lot of you guys had actually, I showed these this morning about, sharing them with you guys. Let me see if I could get over to, is it still called Twitter? X. So here I am. I showed it this morning. This is a bunch that I did. Not all that I did, but a bunch that I did last year on the campaign. These were 5-minute sketch cards. So you got the Puck Wudgies at the top with Dr. Carroll on the top right. You got on the left side here, you got White Mountain Yeti. There's a Victor Lugo. Then we got the Dragon Vanderkin. On the right side, we got a Broog, a bunch of King Cryptids, and Wendy the Werewolf. So these were just kind of like to introduce some of the new characters coming up. And I figured, why not have at it again then? Because I asked you guys, and you guys want it. So 2 of you guys have been picked them up, which is great. Thank you guys so much for that. But we got that as an option again for this year. So if you do want it, go pick it up. Like I said, just available to the 8th, August 8th. And 50 in total. 25 as a main, 25 as an add-on. And that's on the campaign. You've been calling it Twix, Sheldon. It's the craziest thing. I tell you what, I'm never buying anything that Elon Musk does. After how he's handled Twitter, I just can't, I just couldn't trust any of his products. Anyway, now that I've burned bridges with Elon Musk, which is, I don't know, is that advisable? I've sent the link to Marsh. If you're watching, come on in, join the show. Let's see, Jaded One says, beautiful artwork, Pete. Thank you, Jaded One. Appreciate that. No One Talented says, howdy all. Glad to catch another stream live. I'm glad you're here too. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, so Marsh has the link now at this point, and hopefully he joins the show any second now. But yeah, I felt like, we'll do this 15 minutes or so, start before the show. Get to catch up with you guys and see what you're up to. You get to see what I'm up to a little bit more as well. And I don't have to dedicate like a whole separate show to talk about maybe 1 or 2 small things. Something else I want to mention is that on the Alternate Comics Winter 2023 campaign, we got about 100 of those perks have shipped out already. And there's about, I'd say in total between all the backers, maybe there's like 250 to 300 more total packages that have to ship out. Because a bunch of backers did kind of double up here and there with various perks. But about 100 backers should be getting their things soon. And I'm packing, I'd say 20 to 30 packages a day. Roughly, that's like 18 to 22 backers, give or take. Sometimes it's a full 30. If you guys just ordered the winter bundle or just like 1 or 2 comics or something. But we're getting there. 2 to 3 weeks for fulfillment. So by the time, by the time it all ends, fulfillment should be completed around, I guess by the time the King Cryptid campaign ends, around the 8th or 9th. You're going to get a tracking notification email, of course, with your shipping and everything else involved, so you'll know when your thing actually has shipped out. That's how I always run it, whether you ordered through the Alterna site or the Indiegogo. But yeah, just figure I'd give you an update on that too. Let's see. Hey, Yang, what's up? Hope you're doing well. Dr. Masks has spent 3 hours watching Rob do sketch cards. Great stuff. Wow. Did he do a 3-hour stream? Or is it just like in total you've spent 3 hours watching him draw sketch cards? Because he's been sticking with it. He's been sticking with it, which is great. He was asking me and going, I see you're doing a lot more streaming. Do you think I should do a lot, more streaming too? And I'm like, well, I think it's a great way to maintain contact with the people out there, but, only do what you can. but try to do something every day. That's what I'm really trying to do. Something every day, or at least 6 to 7 days a week. And if I'm not here, I'm usually somewhere else that day, like on another channel or something. But he started maybe about 2 weeks ago, I want to say. And he's been really, really doing well. I'm really proud of him that he's been sticking with it, and he's been seeing the results of it. And his art, even. I mean, Rob's already a great artist. And it's Rob Geronimo we're talking about, who works on Blood Realm. Rob's already a great artist, but the stuff he's been doing on those sketch cards that he's been making, on the Blood Realm cardstock that he made, he's got his campaign up right now too. It's crazy. I am unbelievably impressed. It's like a whole other level for him. So, if you haven't seen it yet, go to it's Geronimo Draws. Go to his channel and check that out. And he did a stream last night for 3 hours. Holy smokes. Man, oh man. Goodness gracious. Well, it looks like we've got our guest has popped in. And let's give them a quick introduction. What's up, Marsh? How you doing?
Good, how are you? What's up?
Are things incredibly weird in Marsh area?
They're always weird, especially when you get introduced by John Candy. Come on.
Oh, yeah.
That's awesome. I love that.
Absolutely, yeah. Little Shop of Horrors, great stuff. Hey, what's up, Reverend Saber? So Marsh, man, welcome to the show. I was just doing like a little pre-show, before you joined us, but you're right on time. Thank you, man. 1 o'clock Eastern. We'll be here for about an hour. Is that cool with you?
Yeah, it's all good.
Okay, awesome, man. Okay, I want to talk to you, and for those that don't know, this is he runs the YouTube channel Marsh Makes Comics. As you can see, Marsh of DonkeyJawProjects.com. And Marsh, there was a video that you made a while ago, I guess maybe a couple months ago, and it had to do with you quitting. And for a second, I was like, "Oh no! Don't tell me he's getting off of YouTube or whatever," because you make such great videos. They're so raw and insightful and just honest, and you're giving your open viewpoints about creating comics and what it's like, and some tips of your experiences. And then I watched it, and you were quitting your job to focus more on comics and everything else. How's that been going?
Oh, it's good. I mean, when it comes down to it, I was quitting my job. I wish it was to focus 100% on comics, but it was to pursue a new career in coding and to go to school for it full time for a little while. And, that also would open up the opportunity for me to spend a little more time on comics. What happened with that was I actually ended up, the coding it's a lot of work and learning it, so comics actually kind of went to the wayside for a few months. But I'm kind of back on track with that now, as I'm looking for a job and stuff, and I'm still learning coding, but things have opened up. I was actually working on some music, and now things have opened up where I can focus back on comics, and I've been pretty much all into it for the last few weeks. I've been really back on that horse, and yeah, I don't know. I love comics. It's that, like, I have a friend, my buddy Michael Vlad, who says comics is a sickness, and it really is. Like, there's like an addictive quality to it or something, and I can't ever get away from it. I love it. And plus, as much as in this community, I've seen like different sects have like problems with each other and arguments. Like, luckily I haven't had that so much. Like, most of the people, I mean, I've had it a little here and there, but for the most part, I've had a lot of great community interactions with people in the comic book world, and to me it's like family, so I can't leave it.
Yeah, I hear you. And the thing is, there's always been, to a degree, some of that. But when they're really coming at you, then you've made it.
That's why I haven't
Because
made
then they
it
fear you.
yet. I
Then
can
they
tell.
fear you. Otherwise, they're like, okay, we'll keep an eye on them for now. But you've been doing some great work, especially when it comes to YouTube. And I think a big reason for that, for the reason that you haven't really been getting a lot of pushback, and I don't want to say that in some respects you haven't made it, but because I think you're doing so good on YouTube with a lot of the videos you put out. I think you avoid Twitter a lot of the time. That's where
Yeah.
most of this nonsense is. It doesn't really exist outside of that for the most part.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of
Um,
quotes about Twitter. It's kind of a cesspool, unfortunately,
yeah,
and I try to stay away from it.
Elon Musk should have just got the rights from Disney and call it Mos Eisley because it's full of scum and villainy.
Oh boy. I'm surprised you've stayed on there, to be honest, with all the trouble you've had to deal with.
There's, believe me, man. There's days where I'm like, is it worth it? But that's why I'm more on YouTube nowadays. I'm trying to rebuild my Instagram because my original Instagram, even though it had like 17,000 followers on there, I found that there were a lot of people that were bots. And the reason that had happened is because years ago, when we were doing a Kickstarter for the Chair movie, I was buying Facebook ads, and that was one of the only ways you could get out there on Facebook. That's why I left Facebook eventually too. And it
Hmm.
would kind of go into Instagram, and I would be getting a lot of followers from Instagram, and they're all bots. They're all just fake accounts.
Hmm.
And so I had probably like 5 or 6 thousand legitimate accounts, but a bunch of them were fake. And then on top of it, Instagram wasn't letting me delete a lot of those accounts. And so I noticed my interactions were really low too. I used to get like maybe 300 to 400 interactions per post, like likes and stuff. And then it turned into like 20 to 30. So I left and started a new one maybe a month ago, maybe less than that. But I think I have almost 200 followers on Instagram. If you want to follow me, guys, it's just Instagram. It's at Pete Cimetti. Um, and I get like the same interactions now. With 200 followers compared to 17,000, I get the same level of interaction. So
Hmm.
I'm glad I left and then restarted. But
Yeah.
I'm not doing that for anything else. If I ever leave Twitter, I'm gone completely. But yeah, for now, it's still kind of useful, and you got to be aware that it is a bit of a minefield. So when something, if you're going to post something kind of incendiary, just be aware that there might be pushback. And it's easier now to kind of be aware of that, but still,
Yeah.
it's a weird place. It's a weird place. I definitely prefer YouTube. Do you prefer? I'm guessing you prefer YouTube.
Well, yeah, I mean, and the thing too with Twitter is like the it's just not my platform. Like I've never been a 144 character type of guy. For some reason it just doesn't speak to me. But the reason I am still technically on Twitter, or used to be especially, is because that is where a lot of people in the industry hang out. And in a lot of industries, it actually can be a useful platform. People have made careers off of doing some pretty interesting things on Twitter, but um, it just, for some reason, it's never resonated with me. YouTube, yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, I really dig YouTube as a platform, and I dig Instagram as well. I like TikTok, but sometimes I have a hard time with continuing with TikTok and stuff. But Instagram and YouTube are the places like I enjoy taking content in, and I enjoy putting content out. So I just kind of go with what I enjoy. And that's the thing too. Like when I made that
Yeah,
video about quitting, that's really what it was about. Was I'm quitting kind of and this, I still feel this way to this day. Like I'm quitting kind of trying to make comic books, like trying to force comic books or my creative stuff to become a career. um and it's like I've always been back and forth, but I've always wanted, like since I was a kid, like I remember, like even in nursery school, I was the kid who wanted to draw more than I wanted to go outside and stuff like that. And then like when I was in high school, I knew, like when I was reading the comics and drawing and copying stuff that I was seeing and all that kind of thing, I knew then, like, this is what I want to do for a living. Like other people do this. Why can't I be one of those people who does this for a living? You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
at that age, you also don't know much about the world and stuff. So, you know, but at the same time, my parents, as I'm sure many parents are like, you know, well, yes, we support your art, but you got to realize the realities of the world, and it might be a little hard to do that. And they had no kind of perspective on what some kind of creative career could look like, so they didn't know really how to guide me in that way. So I ended up just with regular jobs for most of my life. And but it's always been in me to like make this a career, and still to this day I would love if it became a career. But that could also be the worst curse ever, and I could find out that I don't enjoy it as a career, you know. So you know, I see both sides of it, and the point is I'm not putting the pressure of make having to make it a career anymore, and it's freed me up a lot to really enjoy spending time on YouTube doing my thing. Because if I post something on YouTube or on Instagram and I don't have that pressure, I'm not worried so much about like likes and follows and stuff and all that, then I'm free to do exactly like express myself in exactly the way that I feel
Yep.
led to, I guess, you know. And I don't know. There's a lot of freedom in that, and I actually am more prolific on those things because I'm not worrying about some algorithm or something. I'm just making because I love to make things, you know.
Yeah, you're coming from a more genuine viewpoint, you
Hmm.
know? So if you're constantly concerned, it's kind of the same thing that's ruining corporate entertainment, right? They're constantly concerned with growth and with the bottom line and things like that. And yeah, you should be concerned with that, but should that be your driving, sole driving factor? No. Especially if you're talking about creative, in
Hmm.
the you're not just in the product regurgitation of like, we've made potato chips and we've got to make sure that people like these potato chips and we keep making the potato chips and it's a formula and it's over and over and over again.
Hmm.
With creative fields, you got to make sure you're mixing it up. You got to make sure that you're doing something that is new and innovative, but doesn't necessarily turn away the audience that you're going after, or the prior audience that you have. You want to make sure you're growing the audience and you're growing on that level. But if it's all about profit growing and that's just the motivating factor, it's going to kind of become crippling because you're going to get into this mindset where eventually you look at what used to work and you just keep doing that over and over again and putting a new spin on it, which is what we
Hmm.
kind of see.
Yeah.
So what you're talking about is essentially kind of the right way to go about it, because it's also, if you think about it, I draw that to parallels with finding the right relationship in your life. If you're out there and you're dating and you're really trying and you're desperate, right? You got the stink of desperation on you.
Hmm.
You're trying way too hard. You're not being yourself. You're not comfortable. You're being pushy. You're getting depressed. You're in all these different things, and it's the same thing when you're pursuing something like this. It means something to you. It's important to you, but you have to find that you gotta just be willing to let the universe bring it to you when the time is right. And the way that that happens is by you pursuing exactly how you're doing it, which
Hmm.
is, you're just being you, you're being genuine, you're not putting pressure on yourself, you're not putting pressure on someone else. And you're saying, hey, I'm doing this stuff. If it speaks to you, hopefully it does. Cool. If it doesn't, that's cool too. And that's how you do it right. And that's the ironic part about it, is by forcing it, you're not really going to have it. And if you do have it, you're not going to be happy. But by
Yeah.
just kind of doing what you're doing, you're most likely going to have it. You're most likely going to have success, and you're going to have that happiness that comes with it, that keeps you creative and keeps you in that zone.
Yeah. Yeah, I always, when I think of this kind of topic, I think about my buddy, and I know you're familiar with Lucifer Storm. He made
Oh yeah,
Ed
yeah.
Gein, yeah, Ed Gein Demon Hunter, and he's working on Lady Satan now. Really awesome dude. I talk to him like literally on a daily basis. And one of the things he says all the time that I love is, you know, if you're chasing after something, it's actively running away from you. And you know what I also get from that is like how if you want to have people like following you, not that that's the point of all this. The point is to make the thing that you have inside you to create. But if you want to find a following as a result of what you're doing, like, you gotta do something that's almost like in a leadership form. Like, that's kind of what we do as artists and creative people.
Yeah.
But we're creating something kind of out of nothing, and we're paving paths that haven't been paved yet. And that's when there will be followers, because again, it's like putting like a signal up, like, this is what I do. If you like it, come and follow the journey, and it's actually a very natural thing. And like you said, that people can sense that air of desperation, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work in dating, it doesn't work in creative. And I know, like, I'm sure for you, like, I mean, when you create, like, I don't see anything in King Cryptid where it's like, okay, the algorithm says this, I've heard that this audience is into this, and this audience is into that, and like, so we're gonna make this amalgamation of something that will really hit the streets. And
let's make sure we're chasing those trends, let's make sure that it's cool for the kids.
Yeah, I don't see that in King Cryptid at all.
Made for modern audiences.
Yeah.
Every time I hear that with people that want to chase trends, or they want to make it for modern audiences, or remake it, which is even worse, remake it for modern audiences, without the sensibility of keeping in mind to maintain the core heart of what made that appealing to begin with, right? It's just a total revamp. I'm like, wow, what a good way to completely make it irrelevant, to make it automatically old and dated and cringy, and to make sure no one ever wants to see this ever again.
I know, totally. And that's one thing, because I have been like off of TikTok for a long time, and I just started posting some stuff back on there, and I was like, I was looking through my like For You section, and I guess because I haven't been on it, it's like serving me all kinds of stuff that I don't even want. But one of the things I keep seeing is like, oh, if you want to be good at Instagram, if you want to be good at that, you got to look into the analytics and find out, what topic do you want to talk about? Okay, now go to ChatGPT and put that in and find out, like, what are all the topics you can do surrounding that. And I'm like, I have tried to do some stuff like that in the past, and the biggest problem with that is it's soulless. It's not coming from me. Like, I just don't have the motivation to keep that going, and it also just doesn't work, because like you said, it's like that vibe of like desperation and stuff.
And I know it's daytime, ladies and gentlemen. I usually do more of this at night, but I'm going to put on the tinfoil hat right now. All right, so putting it on. All right, so something I think is more insidious than even that, because that's like a base level of, it takes away your creativity. You're always chasing the trend, so you're never actually doing anything innovative, right? You're always following the leader, instead of being the leader. Social media has cut off the legs of news media. So you could go out there and basically pick up on any story, any event that's occurring, and beat any news outlet to the punch. Right? You get the scoop before they do it. Now, so basically what's happening is that you get these creative fields that are occurring, and you get these things with Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and, Twitter, and it's like, chase the trend. Here, talk about the trendy thing. So now what they're doing is basically saying, hey, everybody at home, can you just talk about what we want you to talk about? We don't actually want you to talk about anything else. We want to make it trendy for you. This is a cool thing, that this will get you clicks and views and likes and followers. Keep just talking about what we want you to talk about. So there's an insidious part to that these companies are finding workarounds to do. And you see it all the time, because you'll see like promoted hashtags. You'll see the companies that pay for these topics to be put to the top. There's things on social media where, I'll click on whatever it may be. It's usually Twitter. And it's like, I don't want to see this trend. I don't give a crap about it, And it's like, oh, good, now we can take it away and we'll make your timeline, better for you, right? What happens? You refresh it, it's still there. So it's promoted without being, quote unquote, promoted. And then you get the ones, of course, that are promoted and they're advertising. So you get all that stuff that's telling you then what to talk about. And it's convincing you in a way that makes you go, I should talk about that, because that's how I'll grow and that's how I'll get attention for the things I'm doing. But what you're doing is you're just being another arm of what they want you to talk about and how they want you to think. So
Yeah.
it's great that, when you try that and you're like, yeah, that's really not for me. And I think most people like yourself will find that that's the answer. Because I can't imagine, like, what it turns into, kind of like, what's the point? What's the point of any of this if all I'm doing is looking at what's trending and I'm just going to discuss what's trending and that's all I care about and that's all I'm going to put out there? You're becoming the marketing firm for whatever company is pushing that, or you're becoming the journalist for whatever outlet in the media is pushing that topic. And
Mm-hmm.
that you then give your viewpoint, you just talk about it, and if you get more and more attention about it, well, now you're just basically working for them without working for them.
Yeah.
So it's, instead, you could be doing your own thing. You could be being creative. You could be putting out your art. You could be talking about the things you want to talk about, good, bad, whatever it may be. But, can't have that. So, tinfoil hat off, and we'll resume the rest of the conversation. Now, if you guys think that's absolutely crazy of me to say that, please feel free. But I've definitely noticed over the years things that it adds up to that, especially when you look at who's actually who's out there and pushing it.
Yeah.
So some of the things that you've done with your own art and your own stories and your comics, for you, because you do have a lot of videos that are actually pretty damn popular, Marsh.
Mhm.
People have really taken to some of that stuff because you're being real with them and you're being insightful and you're just going, hey, look, this is my experience. Make of it what you will, which is great. What have you found in terms of the videos you've made and the subjects you've discussed has been the most difficult to broach? Like you're sitting there going, man, how do I put this video together? And then two, has been the most helpful that you found for other people?
Um, I mean, to be honest, I feel like every video has its own challenge. I think the hardest thing is to not repeat myself over and over too much, like, because I tend to have similar points a lot because I feel a certain way about things. But um, the stuff that's been the most helpful to me that I've found, and something that does resonate with me, is helping people like right on the ground level, right at the beginning stage of making comic books. Like, to me, that is like I got into this. I mean, I've been always wanting to make comics, but I didn't make my first comic until, somewhere around like 15 years ago. I made my first mini comic. And that was because I was listening to podcasts. Podcasts became a big thing. YouTube wasn't really popping off just yet, but there was a few comic book podcasts. The Art and Story podcast with Jersey Droz and Kevin Cross and Mark Rudolph. There was Illustration Party Time. There was a bunch of really cool podcasts in the early days, and they kind of had a community going. And eventually, they had this project, this challenge to make a mini comic, and the people in the community there made mini comics, and it was called the Mini Comic Dump Truck. Again, started by Kevin Cross and that whole crew. And that was the first comic I ever made. It finally got me to finally like take the plunge, and like I was trying to make comics but unsuccessfully. That was
Yeah.
something that was not overwhelming. That was like, okay, you have a set time and you just have to make a mini comic. So I did it. It was like huge. I was like, oh man, I actually finally made my first comic. It's not the best comic in the world, but it's a comic. And then, after that, I just kept kind of going that route. And then Kevin Cross started doing the 100 Days of Making Comics challenge on YouTube. And that's when myself, people like Scott Circlin, and a bunch of other guys started doing YouTube videos. And, you know, a lot of it was centered around this 100 Days of Making Comics challenge. Do a video every day for 100 days in a row. You put out a video, you talk about your progress, and for at least a half an hour a day, every day, you work on your comic. And that is like, it's like, yeah, can you not put aside a half an hour every day to make your comic and stuff like that? And so that was huge to me too. And eventually I got to the point where I was working at least a half an hour a day for years in a row. It wasn't even, I didn't need the challenge anymore. um,
Yeah, you've developed that habit. You've trained yourself at that point.
right. And
Yeah.
so that is what I've passed on to other people, because it's so hard. I understand like how how hard it is to be a perfectionist as a creator. Like I'm sure you deal with that a lot of times, and you've probably dealt with that, and also with the creators you work with. Like this is a very common thing that writers and artists go through, is this kind of perfectionism, and or like the procrastination, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of things that will get in the way of you making your comic. And so when I found out this, like how to just like kind of go past that and get to your first comic, I started making content around that. And it's just because I want to share it more with the community. It worked for me, so let me share it with some friends. And since then, since making that one video specifically about making mini comics and kind of getting over that hump, I've had so many people tell me that they made their first comic, because of that. And then I built a community, like a Discord server, which is now a Gilded server. And that's like, that became a community of people who actually put action to this stuff. Like that's what I'm so proud of, is the people who have followed what I've done, or the advice that I've given. It's not me who's done it, but they have actually put action. They've put their money where their mouth is, and they've made comics. And that is like, I can't ask for anything more. That's like pretty awesome reward in and of itself.
Yeah, it's kind of like what I've talked about this before, and the way I phrase it is that competence breeds confidence. Mm-hmm. So the more competent you become, the more confident you become. When you're a first-time creator and you're going out there, and I see this all the time, man, and that's why I kind of stopped taking submissions at Alterna for the most part. And I hate to do that, but it is what it is. I'm seeing too much of it now. And what I mean by that is I'm seeing so many people that are sending in a submission that they'll flat out go, this is the first comic I've ever created. And I'm like, so number one, it looks like it. Sometimes it looks like it's literally the first thing they ever drew. Mm-hmm. So it looks like it's the first thing they've ever created. And you could tell they're just not confident about any of it. The storytelling, the writing, the composition, the drawing, the inking, top to bottom, the whole thing is a mess, But it doesn't mean that maybe 5 to 10 years from now, they're not doing amazing work. Yeah. But what they're doing is they're rushing to get into this position, and they're not competent at all with what they're doing. They're lacking that confidence. Yeah. So the more that they do it, the more that they learn, the more that they strive to get better, the more competent they'll become. But like I said, I'm seeing too many people that are rushing into it, and they're not taking the time to learn any of it. And I don't know if it's indicative of, because we're seeing so many comic properties adapt to film. I don't know if it's them viewing that comics are so easy. How hard could it be? I don't know if it's just them shooting their shot and figuring like, hey, well, why not? People said I should, so I should. But the thing is that they're not readying themselves, and then they're putting themselves in a position where they're going to constantly build up resentment, and feel like, that they're not good enough. Well, why should they continue? All they get is rejections. But the thing is, they're getting these rejections because they're not taking the time to learn and build their competence. Yeah. So it's exactly like that. And it's great to see, like what you said, and what people are watching your videos. They see you making that comic, then they go out there and they try to do it. And you're like, hey, look, I did it. I achieved something. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? The next time you do one, it's going to get easier and easier and easier. And the easier the basics get, the more complex you can create your story. Yeah. So it's awesome that you put that video out, and I did notice that that's one of your more popular ones, and I'm glad that it's inspired people, because you got to start somewhere. You can't start going into it going, I'm going to create this big epic huge long series, and I'm going to get all the best people to work with me, and it's like, why would they? You don't know what you're doing yet.
Yeah, and that's like what you're kind of describing too. Like that is it's unfortunately that's just how I think we are as humans. Like it's very easy to have that anxiety about, oh, look at the opportunities, I have to jump on that, like but maybe I'm not ready. But it's really also hard to have the self-awareness that like maybe I'm not quite ready yet, and it takes a humility, and that's why, like, when I first was interacting with you, I'm like, yeah, I love alternate newsprint comics. This is exactly what I want to do. like, and I went up to you and showed you stuff, and I was like, and I took your advice and stuff, but I still have yet to submit something to Alterna, because I feel like I want to be ready to I would still love to be published with your stuff, but like, I didn't submit because, like you said, like, you have to be ready. You have to have the right thing. I want to make sure it's something good that works, and it's, sad to hear that you're not exactly taking submissions. But if I remember correctly, last time I saw, I think you're at least having the Wednesday. It came out.
Yeah, the short stories for it came out on a Wednesday.
Like,
Yeah,
maybe
we'll
I'll
always be taking that.
that.
Yeah, and that's a place I recommend is really good for people that are just kind of starting out. You're telling a smaller story, or maybe you've got a larger story you want to tell, and you can split it up into chunks of like 6 to 10 page, increments. And then you don't have to have that, what we were talking about before, coming into it with that pressure, that time constraint, because a lot of people also aren't in a situation where they should be getting to a publisher. They don't have the time to dedicate to publishing, to helping to market, because it's a creator-owned thing as well. So you really got to make sure that you're in a position to also help market your book. So a lot of people don't have that. They just have the time to maybe do 1 page a month, and they got a day job or something else going on or whatever, so that it's not there. The rest of it isn't in place yet, so they shouldn't submit to a publisher at that point. Jaded One asks, so how do you know when you're ready? I'll let Marsh answer that first, and then I'll give my spin on it, and hopefully we're kind of meeting in the middle, or we say sort of the same things.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough question, because the thing is, like, and it depends on if you're talking about a writer or an artist, because there's kind of such a range of what's publishable. Like, technically anything's publishable, on a self-publishing basis. You can always publish. There's web comics, there's mini comics like I've done, there's all that, like, technically at any point. But when it comes to going to a publisher, it takes some trial and error, I think. I think you have to sometimes do that. Like, I might get rejected, but like, at least I'll get some feedback, type of thing. I mean, you hear about people like Todd McFarlane, who he wasn't on his game in the beginning, but he was sending stuff to publishers over and over and over and over again, and he kept getting feedback, and he would keep changing stuff, and then he would give it a go again. But I think the question, how do you know when you're ready, is less important than what is your attitude going into it. What is your are you ready, like, emotionally to deal with the kind of the feedback that you might get? Are you able to go and get rejected and then keep going and not kind of get butthurt about it? Because I feel like all you're gonna do, that's not gonna help the situation. And I've heard stories of people, like, even who have, like, just submitted to different publishers and stuff, and I've seen scenarios where people do get butthurt, and they go and they either badmouth the publisher, or they get like this defensiveness, and that's not going to help your cause. But I've also seen scenarios where people go in with a very mature attitude. Even if it is good, it might not be the right fit for a certain publisher or something. And they take whatever feedback they get, and they say, okay, maybe I'll try it with a different publisher, or I'm going to go back to the drawing board and try to do another thing and see how that works. So yeah, I think the better, and that is a good question, but I think the thing we should think about is what is our attitude approaching that situation?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to look at it, and it's absolutely correct. What I'm going to say is a little bit more on the nose to how do you know when you're ready. And I'm going to say I'm going to define it as to how I think you're defining it, meaning ready being ready to go to a publisher or ready to sell your work. So if you're an artist, it's easier than if you're a writer. I'll say that point blank. And the reason that I'm going to say that is because social media nowadays has made it so easy where you can go out there and share your work. You can tell people, hey, check out what I made. What are your thoughts? Now, again, you have to do what MARSH did the first time. You have to prepare yourself with that attitude. You can't go out there and your attitude is fragile. And you're just getting out there and your skin is thin and you're saying, hey, world, what do you think? Because people are going to probably destroy you. All right? And you're not going to be ready for it. And they're not even probably going to intend to be mean. But the slightest thing, they could say like 90% of it is great, but 10%, hey, maybe work on this or that, and you're gonna just be in pieces. And you're not even gonna hear the positives. You're gonna focus on the negatives, and you're gonna go, I'm not good enough. I'll never be good enough. So you do have to prepare your attitude. You do have to mature a bit when it comes to that. Now, the other side of that is the only way you're ever gonna really do that is by kind of testing the fire a bit. But always make sure you've tempered your attitude to go that these are people that everyone's got an opinion, and there's things that people like that I don't like, and there's things I like that people don't like. So view it as that you have an opinion on other things too, and there might be an artist that everyone loves and you really can't stand their work, or you think it's awful or whatever it is, but some people just like it or they're successful or whatever. Keep that in mind with your own work. Now, the way that you know that you're ready to start going to a publisher to start selling your work, people will flat out tell you, and more people will. But you have to share your work though to let them know. So if you're an artist and you're putting your stuff out there and you're always looking to receive feedback, that's an important thing, because most people aren't going to want to necessarily give you any feedback or advice or critique or whatever, because people don't want to be jerks, and they don't want to nitpick, because you could find something to nitpick about anything that you see. But if you're in the mood to get feedback and a critique and whatever it is, let people know. Show your art. Prepare yourself and share that stuff with them. Now, you'll know people want to start paying for it because you'll start showing work and they go, oh, how much is that? I'd like to buy it. You'll see it all the time. Let people know, oh, hey, I drew this thing. It's available if anyone, would like to buy it. And eventually you'll start getting people that want to buy it. Now, as far as putting together your comic and going to a publisher and whatever it may be, again, it involves you sharing your work. Now, at this point, you have to share your work on a higher level. It's not just among the fan or the potential buyer. You have to go to professionals that you trust. Generally, the best place still to do that is at a convention. I do a show every now and then called the Feedback Forum, but that's few and far between. So don't just wait for me to do that, and don't just take my word for it. Get a third, fourth, fifth opinion about your work. But take their notes, take what they've said into consideration, and be honest with yourself and really evaluate, maybe I do need to work on the female form or a background or a car or buildings or perspective or whatever, my panel composition. People will tell you as long as you let them know, because MARSH did that with me. MARSH was like, don't be afraid to tell me, what I need to improve on and this and that. And because at first I was like, I don't know, I don't want to break this guy's heart and say, this and that. And it wasn't horrible or anything, but he wanted to improve. So he showed me these original pages he had. And I said, okay, well, this, that, and the other thing. And, this is good. That, what you did there, bring that into this, and all these other types of things. And MARSH has grown. That was years ago, but MARSH has grown a lot as an artist since that point in time. I'm sure that I'd have less to critique at this point if he said, Pete, tear into me, be brutal about it. So that's how eventually you have less and less and less of a critique coming back, especially if you go back to the same person who was honest with you and tore you a new one or something, and now you bring it back and go, yeah, I guess just work on that thing, but maybe you don't need to. No. And you will get to that point, and you'll know who's giving you an honest and fair critique, because they're being honest and fair with you. It's not just, oh, this sucks, get it out of my face. That's not an honest and fair critique. That's just an emotional reaction, or someone who they don't have the time of day for it, or they don't know how to express in words how to tell you to improve. And then again, if you need help, if you don't know how to do something on your work, ask people for that kind of advice as well. Oh, how would I go about doing that? What would you recommend? And then there's tons of tutorials you can watch online. There's tons of books out there that can help you out. But yeah, just you'll eventually know, because people want your work, and they'll stop giving you as many critiques as you used to receive. But the key to all that is you got to put in the work. You got to put in the time. All right, so we're going to take a quick break right now, and we'll get right back to it. We're going to show a trailer or two, just a minute or so. You're watching Comic Book Radio. I'm your host, Peter Cimetti. Tonight, my guest is Marsh Makes Comics. This is episode 43. Again, don't go away. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back, and hey, Crystal McGee. Logan says, Pete, where's your hat? I feel like I'm a kid and Dad shaved his mustache. The world I know is crumbling. Well, this is basically some form of a hat. It's kind of hot today. That's all it is. This is cooler than wearing a hat, temperature-wise. Marv says, I've been working on my art for over 25 years. I published my first comics 2 years ago at 46, struggling every day after working at a factory. I hope to make comics as a living someday. Well, there you go. Keep at it, man. And I hope you get that as well. Even if it's a side job, a second job, that you could still make some kind of income from your comic. What's up, Siege? Dr. Matt says you can't just willy-nilly submit, too. If your comic is a violent R-rated comic, you are going to submit to a company that specializes in kid comics. Take some time to learn about the company. Yeah, that's absolutely true. And then Wiley asks, what's Marsh's handle on Twitter? I believe it's this, right, Marsh? At Marsh Comics?
Yeah.
Okay. And what's up, Beampad? All right. So at this point in time, I'm going to put the link into the chat. If you guys want to join the show, please feel free. If you've got a question or comment for Marsh, not for me, for Marsh, please feel free to join the show and ask him or say to him whatever it may be. And also feel free, if you can't join the show, to post your question or comment in the chat. So forgive me if we got to this. I don't know if we did, but what video for you was the most difficult? Did you have the most trouble making?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's kind of, I guess it's kind of a funny thing that I'm not really, to be honest, super sure. I guess, kind of one of the most difficult is like whenever I have like I had a big life update a few years ago, and I used to get a little more personal with my YouTube because I just felt, and I still do to some degree, but I don't know, it's just like talking about like some personal stuff, I guess, would be the hardest thing. But as far as hard, I'm trying to think, like, because I don't generally make videos about stuff that I don't have like an excitement to make about, to make a video about. I guess like some of the ones that are the hardest are the ones I didn't actually want to do, like, because I get like, you get the requests sometimes from people to make certain kind of stuff, like, oh, make comic books about character design, or make videos about character design, or teach me how to do this. A lot of people, they'll say like, oh, teach me how to make a mini comic, and I've made a video about that, but I don't really love like doing tutorial, like certain kind of tutorial type videos, because it's just like some of the stuff that's like a little more technical. I like to give like a little tip here and there. I like to teach people stuff, but it's not like in that typical YouTuber, like, okay, step one, step two. I do the step one type of videos, but it's like, it's just, there's a certain time, like that super structured thing. Like a lot of times I'll do live streams. Like today I have a live stream. I do it every Tuesday, usually around 5-ish Eastern. And anyways, like a lot of times I'll just come up, have a topic, and I will end up talking about a bunch of stuff, and I'll end up giving out like tips on how to draw this or how to do this in those things. But if I have to like sit there and make like a very detailed tutorial. That's why I don't end up making those too often, because it's like they're harder, and I don't want to get caught up in that, because like we were talking about earlier, like when you got on YouTube or got on Twitter or any of these social media platforms, did you get on because you were like, "Oh, I want to be on social media. I want to be on YouTube." No, you got on because I make something and nobody knows about it. All I'm doing is making stuff, and it goes out. If it goes out anywhere, it goes out into the void. Like, and it's like, how can I let people know? Like, there's something about making art. I mean, you're actually doing a business too, but like there's something about making art where you also want to share, for some reason. It's just something in you want, that's it's part of expression. That's why art is like expression
Yeah,
in
yeah.
itself. So you want to naturally share it, and you may even want to make a career out of it. And in order to do that, these are the tools, YouTube and stuff. So, but you can get caught up again, as we were talking about before, in like, what are the best practices of YouTube? What are the best practices of so and so platform? And it's great to like follow some of those, but some of like, it's funny because like the people who actually make a lot of impact a lot of times are the people who go against the grain, who do something different. Like I love like artists like Bjork, like or like Beck or something like that. And these are people like musicians who don't do the normal radio thing. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but they like to really experiment and stuff. And you know what? Those people, and there's many other people out there, in music or in art as well, who go against the grain and do something totally different. Again, paving your own path, and then followers who are into that kind of thing will follow, and they have a very nice career for themselves, and they're not sacrificing any kind of artistic integrity to do it, and that's what I would like to do. And I think one thing that I love about Alterna is like, I feel like you do that in a business sense as well. Like you don't like let like all the things that are happening in the industry dictate what you do. You say, okay, this is the temperature, this is the thing that's happening in the industry, but this is what I want to do. And I see you do it all the time. You come up with like these innovative ways to approach something that nobody else is doing, and that's the way to do it. That's
Thank you, man.
the artist, the creativity, whether you use your creativity in business or in actual creative projects. That's what the world really needs, honestly.
Yeah, we need more creativity. We need more people that and with creativity, it's kind of code for saying we need more risk taking. But with more and more creative outlets being controlled by major corporations, they're risk adverse. They're not gonna be wanting to take those risks. Being so risk averse is kind of saying that creativity. Well, we don't know how that's gonna do. We've never seen that before.
Yeah.
Even when it comes to getting your books into businesses and retail. They go, oh yeah, that brand, that character, that company, yeah, I know them. I'll put whatever. And even though most people are like, really, that book looks really bad, they're like, yeah, but everyone knows who that character is, or that company, or that creator. And then the book doesn't really do that great. Meanwhile, there's a book that looks amazing, but no one knows who the hell that person is, that character, or that company. So that's why I love that as we see more of that happen. It's the whole like nature abhors a vacuum. We see the rise of independent creativity and independent creators finding a way to get out there to people, and those people that want that stuff are finding them as well. And it's kind of like this nice relationship that's occurring with the engagement factor. It's that kind of a thing that we're seeing over and over again. But yeah, creativity, man, top to bottom. It's not just about the stories you make. It's about how you're getting them out there. What are you doing with them? How are you telling them? How are you going about your formatting? How are you going about getting things to people? What kind of other products are you doing? Are you incorporating creativity in every aspect of what you could possibly be doing? Or is it just in your stories? And then your business is kind of boring and no one really knows or wants anything you're making because it's so dull and lacks creativity.
But I mean, honestly, I don't even think you're doing it to avoid dullness either. Like when I see the moves that I've seen you do, at times it's like there's a problem. Let's find a real solution to the problem. Let's at least attempt,
Yeah.
Not everything works, but let's at least attempt. Like, why maybe we're thinking about this wrong, and that's one thing that's awesome about being an artist is that's our kind of our job to innovate, and people don't realize that's not just in the arts, that is in business. And that's why I love entrepreneurialism and just seeing how creativity works in many different industries. Really, you can really inject it into any profession to some degree, even things like science and like, to me, I feel like Einstein, it wasn't so much that he was the smartest, intellectual person. Like, I read a book where they found out that he wasn't even necessarily a genius level, thinker, but it was his creativity. That's what caused him to be.
Yeah, that was the true genius of Einstein. Yeah. Yeah, he's got tons of quotes and everything about imagination and things like that, and that's the big part of it, is wondering, what can be done. Let's wonder about what can't be done and what hasn't been done. And let's see if it can be done, and if it should be done. That's the last and final question. Once you figure out, well, yeah, I think we can do that. And then you go, well, should we? And then that's the part nowadays that in science, it's just like in Jurassic Park.
Yeah, right.
It's like, yeah, you should be asking the should question a little more often.
Yeah, and one thing too, a lot of times I've seen you talk about like Bruce Lee and stuff, and it's like there's another person who, like, how many other kung fu movie actors were there, in the world? He did like he's the only one that everybody knows. It's kind of like Stan Lee. How many comic book creators and business people have there been out in the world? Everybody knows Stan Lee, and if you're not into comics, that's all anybody knows about comics is Stan Lee and some of the characters.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
He's the only famous one. Like,
yeah, you gotta get out there. You gotta be your own Stan Lee. And I was always shocked at that. The fact that almost no one else in comics really ever took up, oh yeah, maybe we should go do that too.
Yeah.
Maybe we should go and talk about these things and do every even look at what he did and kind of try to imitate it in some way, shape, or form. Do the voiceover, do an intro, do the press tours, do things like that. And most other companies didn't really have that. Whether they didn't have a person who could do that or they just didn't think they should do that. Stan ended up kind of promoting everyone's comics just because if he was around, he was talking comics. And you would then look into comics. So even if you didn't go and read a Marvel comic that day after, seeing Stan Lee talk about comics, you pretty much picked up something else, So it's and he's still one of the best salesmen in comics, and he's been gone for about 5 years. Yeah. Mitagraphia, what's up? Ken Rocafort says, hi, Peter. This is from Marsh. Hi, Marsh. For years, I enjoy your videos. Your videos about mini comics was super useful for me when I did my first mini Grokin comic. Look at that.
That's awesome. That's so cool. I'm glad it was helpful, man.
Yeah, fantastic. And everybody go check out Grokin, too. Grokin's such a fun book, and Ken is a tour de force. We got HR in here. What's up, HR? And then also, let's see here. We got Genuine Comics. Hey, Genuine, what's up?
Hello,
and
hello.
Ken wants to say again, thanks, Marsh, to share your thoughts in the creative process of your videos. There you go.
Anytime. I love doing it. It's fun.
Absolutely. Gerald says, I think, I guess maybe he says, I think the key is to balance the two aspects. You shouldn't promote too much unless the book is almost complete, but you also don't complete a book without any promo in process. Iconic Comics model I like. I think you should promote whenever possible. I think you should promote even if you just started making it. And it doesn't mean that you have to. That's the difference here. There's a difference between promotion and selling. Now, if you don't have anything to sell, you shouldn't be trying to sell anybody on it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's rule number one. But if you're just drawing something and going, hey, I've got an idea and I want to make this into a book. And so you've got a couple drawings, you've got an idea, you've got your character out, and you want to just talk about it and share it with the world. Go for it. That's promotion. You may not realize that that's promotion, but that's promotion. Promotion is essentially just sharing with people. And sometimes you have to pay to share it with people. And sometimes you can just go out there and share it for free.
Yeah.
But in terms of selling, if you just draw, like, you're coming up with your concept and you just you just drew one thing and you want to show people and you're going, and this is something that you guys could buy in a year, but you have no idea how you're going to get there. Don't do that.
Yeah.
That's too early to start selling. But share stuff with people, promote it.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like it's a tough thing because there's so many artists and creative people out there who they don't want to do a YouTube channel or like do like put their face out there or put like a lot of people are very afraid to even put their art out there and their work out there. And I get it. It is a risk, uh, but if you do want to go down that path, people like to see the humble guy just drawing something or girl or whatever, just drawing something and kind of making their way. And to be honest, like more often than not, like probably 90% of the time, I don't even have anything to sell. Like personally, I have a lot of comics I've made, but like I just recently put up some stuff on Etsy and stuff just because like I realized I'm not even selling anything. Like I don't even know where to point people sometimes, you know. I mean, my YouTube channel, I guess I get a little bit of money from that once in a while, but it's not much. But like, you know, but at the same time, I'm doing it because to me, it's being part of the community. That's what I think about, and for me, that's what I enjoy. But I don't think everybody should do it necessarily, just because it isn't for everyone. But as far as if you're making a comic and you want to promote it, like this idea of like, well, I have to wait till it's like halfway made or something before I want to promote it. Like honestly, it's not that. Like it takes a long time. This whole trying to get people into your stuff, it takes a lot of work and a lot of time. I mean, I've put stuff out without any promotion in the past when I was doing my music more. I was trying to do that as more of a full-time thing, many years ago.
Mm.
And I put out albums and nobody bought them, and it was like, oh, now I realize I have to do like a YouTube channel or something. This is kind of before YouTube, but I have to do something to get people to get into it. And the thing is too is one of the principles about trying to get the word out about stuff is you have to get people to know, like, and trust you. Like
Yep.
that is real good, actual true things. You might hear it on like, these smarmy channels that tell you how to do marketing, but that is actually a true thing. And that's why video is so powerful, and audio can be that way as well, because they hear your voice, they see your face, and that just happens naturally unless you're like a jerk or something. But like
And even they have their audience.
and even they have their audience. So like you have to get people to get that vibe, for you, and it takes time. It's not something that, say your comic is coming out, okay, I'm going to wait until my comic's coming out, and that's coming out in a month. Okay, now I'm going to start promoting. I hate to say it, but you're probably going to hear crickets. It's
Yeah.
unfortunate, but it takes
A lot
work.
of people do that too.
Hmm.
And I've talked about that before. Especially we live in the day and age of crowdfunding, and there's so many people that are skipping the crowd building part and going straight to the crowdfunding part, and then they go, "Where's the crowd?" Well, you got to build them. You got to build that crowd. You got to get them interested. And that can take a while. That could take sometimes years to get to the point where, again, like you're talking about, where you've built up their trust, you've built up the fact that they like what you're doing, they know who you are, and they're familiar enough to say, yeah, I want to support whatever it is they're doing and give them a try, and if I like it, I want to get more of it. That's the whole entire point of promotion and advertising. Like, think about the ads you see on TV. We don't live in a time yet, and let's hope we never do, because it's going to get really weird, where you see an ad on TV and then you instantly go, I want that, and then it boom teleports right in front of you, and money was just extracted from your account. All right. The whole point of the ad that you see, that you're exposed to, whatever it may be, is so you become familiar with it. So now when you go out and you're looking for it, or you're in the store and you see it, you go, oh yeah, I know that thing. And it generally takes a few times before you are familiar enough with it that it'll sink in and you remember it, unless it's a really effective marketing or ad campaign. But that's the whole point of that, is that people become more familiar with it and you lose that. It's the same thing with people meeting people. The more familiar you are with someone, the easier you are around them, and you're more, truly who you are. But when you meet someone for the first time, it could be a little bit of like, I don't know. I don't really know much about this person. I don't know what I should say or not say. I don't know, if I say something to them, will they take it the wrong way? If they say something to me, do they mean it this way? So there's all these uncertainties. This is all about breaking that down. And again, if YouTube isn't the thing to do, there's so many other places to do it. But the key is you have to find something to get that word out there. You can't sit there going, oh, the work will speak for itself. Once it's out there, and people will understand it and they'll find it.
There's a lot of amazing artists and creative people out there who are doing things, and nobody will ever know,
Yep.
And it's unfortunate. And even with YouTube, if you don't like having your face in front of there or whatever, like, you can have a silent YouTube channel and still make a really big impact, or there's a lot of different ways you can do it. Like lately, my YouTube videos have been mostly pointing down at the table, showing off some stuff or showing some art or something. And I'm just talking to people, but that works too, if you don't want to show your face.
Totally.
There's a lot of ways to do it.
Yeah, there's so many ways. It's kind of been the theme of this whole conversation. Find what works for you, find what you're really comfortable with, and lean into that. Don't try to be something you're not. Don't try to emulate the successful personality that you see. Learn from them, by all means. But don't try to emulate. Try instead to come up with, I like that, I like this, I like the other thing, and that speaks to me. Because you'll know what speaks to you and what doesn't speak to you. There's tons of people out there that are super successful, and I'm like, not for me. I could never do that. I could never be that way, whatever it may be, and they're super successful, and that's great. They found what works for them, but find what works for you, because more importantly than being successful is that you're happy. And with that happiness and that joy, you're going to find success with that. You're not going to find much success with being miserable. And even if you do experience success from your misery, it's not gonna last long, and it's not gonna be something that you want to put yourself through. But it's mechanisms of trust. And that's the thing. All of this kind of stuff is all about that. That's why I think there's some people that get out there with YouTube and video or whatever it may be, and people go, oh yeah, I really like what they're saying. It speaks to me, and whatever it may be. And it's because you feel like, what they're saying, it's great, and I can trust their advice. And I think that what you were going back to before, talking about the tutorial aspect and things like that, I think what you were trying to say, but you're very humble about it, and I don't think you wanted to say it this way. I think you were trying to say, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that you don't feel right. It doesn't feel right to you to tell someone, do it like me, what I'm doing is right. This is authoritative. I think you rather share your experience, and if people pick up on that and they can learn something from it, then great.
Yeah, it is. That's part of it. And when I do try to teach people stuff, it usually is out of that place of like, hey, this is. I went, see, this is the reason why I have any motivation to do that. When I do, is like, I've struggled, I've struggled in certain things. And when I find something that actually helps and is like a aha moment, I want to share it with people, and that's, I want to do it out of that, instead of, hey, can you make me a tutorial about like doing this or that, like this specific thing. And it's like, don't ask me how to do perspective. if I do perspective, I usually fake it. So like I don't know what I'm doing. Like so like I can't really do that video, you know, but I can say, oh, I learned this about perspective. Like it was a big aha moment to me when I learned about drawing that like you always see like in drawing books, like how to draw in 3 point, point perspective and all that. It was a huge thing for me when I realized, because they never say this in the books, is you actually have to draw the human, like the character, in perspective as well, and like the lines on the actual character is it's good when they're in perspective. And you can do a lot of faking of it, but at the same time, when you learn form better and stuff like that, like so there, that I'll give like that particular tip because I've learned that. But to do like a whole course on perspective, I'm sorry, I'm not the guy.
It's funny, man, because I think that's also why you end up resonating with your audience, is because they go, oh yeah, this isn't like someone that's like, do it my way and my way is the best way, and this is, you know.
Yeah.
It's kind of more like, hey, I'm figuring this out too, you know, and let's all figure it out together. That's kind of what I loved about, and I think a lot of people love about Bob Ross. You know, when he was making these things, obviously he had a great grasp of not just the right tool to use, but also color theory and composition and everything else. But half the time he's out there and you could tell he's sort of figuring out, yeah, we'll put that in there today. You know, it's great seeing that kind of thing right there and looking at it happen. And you're just watching or maybe painting along or whatever. And it's fun to see that creative process come to life. We'll be ending in a couple minutes or so, but Blaze, I'm not gonna show your comment, but I am gonna read your comment. It says, do you guys ever get jealous seeing ladies flaunt their stuff with crappy YouTube content and make big money? He goes, LOL, not fair. No, I never get jealous of that. You know, if you got it, flaunt it. Whatever it may be, whether that's artistic skill, physical prowess, whatever it may be, you know, music, video editing skill, your voice maybe is great and you're doing some kind of audio book or your ASMR. Or I don't know. There's so many things out there that puzzle me as to how they have an audience, but I don't give it any more thought than that, and it might not be for me. But hey, you know, if you found something that works, more power to you.
Yeah, yeah. I don't have that advantage, so I don't use it.
Yeah, I never given that a thought.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh well, if only, you know, then it'd be great. I'd be doing so much better.
Yeah.
But hey, you know, it's everyone's got their skill set. Everyone's got what they've managed to utilize in some way, shape, or form, and it is what it is. You know, it takes all kinds to make the world go around.
It is a bit of a lesson, though. Like whatever you have a strength at, you know, it's funny to take that lesson from that. But like, whatever you have a strength at, whatever you're good at, like whatever kind of resonates when you talk to people or do things, like lean into that. You know, make that the highlight that part. You know.
Exactly. All right, so with that, it's a great note to end on. Yeah, let's leave that on. The whole theme of the show has been, I'm gonna change that title of the show. I'm talking about leaning into your own uniqueness. That's been the whole theme of the show. You know, don't shy away from what brings you joy. You know, and I know that's kind of like an artsy-fartsy thing to say, and now I'm not saying create to spite other people or despite other people. What I'm saying more is to don't shy away from the things you love to do and the perspective you might have on doing it. Because if anything, if every artist did that, we wouldn't have any artists. Yeah. If every single person who was creating anything was like, well, if I can't create it, who's like that first person ever who created that thing that someone liked, then what's the point of all of it? Yeah. You know, if we only know what we know, we'll never know the things we know. It's that kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. You follow me with that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, that's why, like, you know, following the algorithm and like all this stuff with ChatGPT and AIs and stuff like that, like, it's never gonna I mean, it has its effect for sure. It's a huge thing, but like, it's not like it's never going to replace the human. Even the algorithms on YouTube and things like that. It's like the problem is the algorithms are what has to follow us. The robots have to follow us because it's still people at the other end whose eyes are needing to be,
Yeah, they're giving
needing
them
to
their
get
directives and their
fixed or
biases.
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so like be human. That's
yeah,
be yourself. Lean into what's great, and that expression. That's the part that's exciting and interesting, and where you're gonna find whatever traction you need to find for your project.
totally. All right, everybody, thank you guys so much. Marsh, thank you, man. It was a great conversation,
Thank
and
you.
we'll have to do this again. Uh,
Hmm.
not I guess not real soon because you're busy and I'm busy, but we'll do this again soon.
Anytime when you're ready, I'm ready.
All right, man. Well, we'll touch base. I think maybe October or so. That should be it. That seems like a good amount of time
Sounds good.
to revisit and have Marsh back on the show. Always
Hmm.
love talking to you, dude.
You too,
Um,
man.
Everybody, take it easy. Go check out Marsh's YouTube channel if you haven't subscribed already to it. Please do. The link is in the description of the show. And then if you enjoyed this show, if you like the content on here, if you like these interviews, I'm doing a lot of these. And it's been a blast talking to so many people, getting their opinions on things, learning from them as well. Please subscribe. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and click the notification bell, all that good stuff. If you enjoyed the show today, give it a big old thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. It's okay. I can handle it. I just won't let Marsh know. But thank you guys so much. Everybody, take it easy. I'll be back again tomorrow night with Midnight Mausoleum. Blake and Marlena Midnight from Midnight Mausoleum. And we're going to be talking about a little bit of comics, but they host a horror show that's been syndicated, and they broadcast that on actual television. Can you believe it?
Wow.
So I'll have them on the show. They'll be talking with me tomorrow night, 9 o'clock Eastern. Don't miss it. Everybody take it easy. Have a great day, and I will see you then. Marsh,
Thank you. Bye.
take it easy, buddy.
This is Peter Venkman saying, see you then.